The love you attract isn't random. It's a warning. They told you you fell in love. But Carl Jung would have asked, did you fall or were you pulled? Not by chemistry, not by fate, but by something far more powerful, your unconscious mind. Because you don't attract love at random. You attract what you haven't healed. You attract the ones who press on your emotional bruises, not because you're weak, but because your shadow is screaming to be seen. Carl Jung taught that the people who awaken your deepest emotions, the ones who confuse you, trigger you, break you, they're not here to complete you. They're here to reflect you. That obsession, that magnetic pull, that unexplainable chaos in your chest, that's not love, that's a mirror. You think you're drawn to their beauty, their charm, their soul. But what if I told you? You're actually drawn to the version of you haven't met yet. The wounded child, the forgotten self, the shadow you keep suppressing. And every time they reject you, ghost you, or love you just enough to keep you chasing, it's not punishment, it's repetition. Because the unconscious doesn't care about your comfort. It only cares about your evolution. And if you're brave enough to stop blaming others, to stop calling it bad timing or toxic love, you'll realize you weren't in love with them. You were in love with the feeling of finally being seen by your pain. Chapter 1. This isn't love, it's a mirror. They say, love just happens. That it's fate, that it's random, that you fall for someone like leaves fall from trees. No control, no pattern, just timing and luck. But Carl Jung didn't buy that story. He believed that the love you attract isn't a coincidence and it's a compass. Not pointing you to another person, but pointing you back to yourself. See, you think you fell for their beauty, their energy, the way they looked at you. But that's not why your heart jumped. That's not why your soul trembled. You didn't fall in love. You fell into reflection. Jung taught that we don't attract people. We attract our unconscious wounds. We attract those who remind us, not of what's healed, but what's still broken. Not of our peace, but of our chaos. Not of who we are, but of the parts we've abandoned to survive. And here's the brutal truth. The love that hurts the most, that keeps you up at night, spiraling in your head, doubting your worth, that's not punishment. That's exposure. That's the mirror doing its job. Because real mirrors don't flatter. They don't tell you you're perfect. They reveal the dust you tried to hide. They expose the truth behind your smile, the wound beneath your strength. You didn't fall for them because they were good for you. You fell because your shadow recognized theirs. Because something about their energy awakened the ghost you buried. They activated something raw, something ancient, something that was waiting, not to be loved, but to be acknowledged. Maybe they ignored you, just like you've been ignoring your own emotional needs. Maybe they made you feel invisible, the way your parents did. Maybe they made you chase them. Because deep down, you've always believed you had to earn love. So when they left, it wasn't just a heartbreak, it was a revelation. And if you're willing to look deeper, beyond the why didn't they love me, beyond the what did I do wrong, you'll see it clearly. They weren't your soulmate. They were your soul's mirror. They were your unconscious screaming, this is the wound, this is where you heal. Carl Jung said it best, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you'll call it fate. So the next time someone walks into your life and shakes you to your core, don't rush to label it love. Pause, reflect, observe. Ask yourself, what part of me are they showing me? What shadow is surfacing through this connection? Because love is not just about romance, it's about recognition. And the person you fall for is often the person who reveals exactly what's still unhealed inside of you. This isn't weakness. This is your evolution in motion. This is your soul rising by showing you what still weighs you down. And when you stop chasing people and start chasing your own healing, that's when real love begins, not from them, but from you. Chapter 2. Shadow Love. Why you keep chasing the same person, you ask. Why do I always end up with emotionally unavailable people? Why do I love the ones who hurt me? Why do I chase those who don't choose me? You think it's just bad luck, that maybe the universe is cruel, that maybe you're just not meant to be loved the way you give love. But Carl Jung would have told you, it's not the universe, it's your shadow. That hidden part of you, the part built from rejection, Neglect, shame, guilt, abandonment, that part is still running the show. And here's how it works. When someone pulls away, your abandonment wound screams. You don't walk away, you cling harder. When someone disrespects you, your inner child tries to earn love. So you overgive, you overcompensate, you love them more, hoping they'll finally see your worth. And when someone mirrors your deepest insecurities, when they trigger that ache in your soul that feels so familiar, you don't run. You call it chemistry. But what feels like chemistry is often trauma bonding. You're not attracted to them because they're right for you. You're attracted to them because your nervous system recognizes the pain, because somewhere in your subconscious, that chaos feels like home. You grew up around emotional absence? You'll chase those who ghost you. You were told you had to earn affection? You'll fall for the ones who make you prove your worth. You never felt seen as a child. You'll be drawn to people who make you beg to be noticed. This isn't love, it's repetition. Carl Jung called it the repetition compulsion. It's your psyche's desperate attempt to finally resolve what's been left open, to recreate the wound, so it can be healed. But healing can't come from the same place that caused the wound. You keep going back, not because you love them, but because your shadow is still looking for closure. You're falling into patterns, you're looping inside emotional muscle memory, and every time it ends the same, you blame yourself. You call yourself broken. You think, maybe I'm just hard to love. No, you're not hard to love. You're just loving from the wound instead of the wisdom. You've been taught to confuse intensity with intimacy, to mistake anxiety for connection, to believe that love must be earned, that peace is boring, and pain is proof that you care. But here's the truth that no one told you. Healthy love feels calm, it feels secure, it feels boring. Only if you've been addicted to chaos. Your shadow is not evil. It's not trying to destroy you. It's just trying to be seen. And until you turn inward and say, I see you, I hear you, I won't abandon you again, you'll keep attracting lovers who reflect your pain, not your potential. So stop asking, why do I attract the wrong ones? And start asking, what is still unhealed inside me that keeps calling them in? Because real love doesn't come to rescue you. It comes after you rescue yourself. Chapter 3. The unhealed child picks your partner. There's a part of you that never grew up. Not because you're immature, not because you didn't try, but because somewhere in your timeline, you were never fully seen, never truly chosen, never properly held. That part didn't vanish, it just went underground. Carl Jung would call it the inner child, a psychological imprint of every unmet need, every silenced cry, every moment you felt invisible but had to pretend you were fine. And here's the most dangerous truth. That inner child is now picking your partners. Not the healed, conscious version of you who knows what peace feels like, but the little one still aching for validation, still hoping that if this time someone stays, it'll finally fix the pain. You don't chase them because they're good for you. You chase them because they ignore you just enough to feel like home. You don't love them because of who they are. You love them because your inner child still believes love must be earned, and so you beg. You overextend. You twist your boundaries into knots just to be enough. Love becomes a plea, not a choice. And every time someone leaves, it's not just a breakup. It reopens the original wound, the one from childhood that whispered, "You're not lovable unless you prove it." But let's be brutally honest. Your adult self may have grown stronger, learned skills, read books, built walls, but if the little version of you is still starving for love, you'll keep handing the steering wheel to a ghost. You'll keep choosing the emotionally distant, the inconsistent, the unavailable, because deep down, that child in you still thinks, if I can just win over someone like them, maybe I'll finally feel worthy. But here's the painful irony. No partner can reparent your inner child. That's your job. No one can choose you with the same intensity as you choose others, until you choose the child inside you first, until you sit with them and say, you don't have to earn love anymore. You are always enough, even when no one told you. Carl Jung said, in every adult, there lurks a child, an eternal child, something that is always becoming, is never completed. Healing that child doesn't mean you'll never be triggered again. It means you'll stop confusing trauma for romance. You'll stop craving chaos. You'll stop mistaking anxiety for excitement. And you'll finally realize real love doesn't feel like a rescue mission. It feels like recognition, not of what's broken, but of what's finally whole. Chapter 4. You're not dating them. You're dating your wound. Let's stop pretending for a second. You think you're dating them, the one who's cold, distant, manipulative, inconsistent, but you're not. You're dating your wound. You're in a relationship with your own reflection, not the one in the mirror, but the one hidden inside your emotional patterns. The cold, emotionally unavailable partner. They don't just hurt you, they mirror your fear of closeness. The fear that says, if they get too close, they'll see I'm not enough. The manipulative one. They're not just toxic, they're holding up a mirror to your need to control situations, to avoid the feeling of being powerless again like you were when you were young, and the one who ghosted you. Let's get honest. Maybe you've been ghosting yourself. You've been ignoring your own needs for years. You've been abandoning your truth to please others, to avoid rejection, to feel safe. Carl Jung didn't sugarcoat it. He said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. That means every relationship is a spiritual MRI, a diagnostic scan of what's still unresolved in you. So when you attract someone who treats you like you don't matter, ask, where have I been treating myself like I don't matter? When they lie to you, where have I been lying to myself? When they don't choose you, where have I been abandoning my own heart? You see, your heart isn't confused, your intuition isn't blind, but your trauma, that part of you is loud, it's needy, it craves repetition, not resolution. And that's why you keep falling into the same kind of person, over and over again. But here's the plot twist most people never see coming. You're not falling in love. You're falling into yourself. You're not chasing them. You're chasing closure. You're trying to rewrite a story from childhood, using people who don't even have the right ink. It doesn't matter how charming they are, how intense the chemistry is. If the relationship is born from your wound, it will only ever deepen it. Because wounds don't need romance, they need recognition. So until you make the unconscious conscious, until you say, I see you, I hear you, I will no longer abandon you, you'll keep dating your pain and calling it passion. But real healing happens when you stop looking at your partner and start looking at the mirror they're holding. That's where freedom lives, that's where love becomes sacred, not because it completes you, but because it reflects the version of you who no longer needs to be rescued. Chapter 5. Love isn't a fairy tale, it's a revelation. Let's break a myth right now. Love isn't a fairy tale, it's a revelation. It's not about being rescued, it's about being revealed. Real love doesn't arrive on a white horse to save you from yourself. It walks in quietly and exposes every unhealed part you swore you buried. It doesn't sprinkle magic dust on your wounds. It holds a mirror and says, look, this is where it still hurts. Carl Jung wouldn't say, and they lived happily ever after. He'd say, and then they triggered each other's wounds until truth could finally rise. Because love, real love, isn't based on your desires. It's based on your beliefs, not the surface-level affirmations, the deep subconscious wiring. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. You attract what you believe you deserve, even if it hurts. If you grew up in chaos, you'll crave chaos. If you were taught that love comes with pain, you'll confuse tension for intimacy. If you were ignored, you'll chase the emotionally absent, not because it feels good, but because it feels familiar. And here's the painful part. Your patterns are loud, and the universe listens. The universe isn't punishing you. It's mirroring you. So if your belief says, I'm hard to love, you'll attract people who make you prove your worth. If your belief says, love is earned, not given, you'll fall for those who withhold it, just enough to keep you chasing. You'll think it's fate. You'll think it's chemistry, but it's just repetition. But here's where it changes. The day you shift your belief is the day your pattern dies. When you believe that love is not a transaction, but a truth, You stop begging. When you believe that love means respect, you stop chasing chaos and calling it passion. When you believe you are enough, you stop shrinking to fit inside someone else's emptiness. This isn't a fantasy. This is conscious awakening. This is the moment when you stop asking, why do they treat me this way? And start asking, why have I been allowing it? Carl Jung said, your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens. Love isn't the ending of your story. It's the start of your self-recognition. Because when you heal your core beliefs, when you rewrite the scripts written by pain, you don't attract the same kind of love anymore. You attract peace. You attract truth. You attract someone who doesn't just love the light in you, but holds space for the shadow too. And that, my friend, that's not fantasy. That's freedom. Chapter 6. The shadow wants to be seen, not loved. You say you want love. You say you're looking for a soulmate. But deep down, do you know what your soul truly craves? To be seen, not adored, not worshipped, not saved, just witnessed, in your rawness, in your rage, in your silence, in your scars. Because Carl Jung knew something most people never dare to admit. The shadow doesn't want love. It wants the light of your awareness. See, your unconscious mind is clever. It knows that heartbreak will wake you up faster than happiness ever will. It knows that love is the fastest way pain rises to the surface. Because when you fall in love, your wounds come with you. And when someone triggers you, leaves you, betrays you, you're finally forced to look inside, not out of choice, but out of emotional survival. That ache in your chest when they disappear, that rage when they don't choose you, that confusion when they love you one day and reject you the next. It's not just about them, it's your unseen shadow knocking on the door, saying, don't fix the relationship. Fix the part of you that's still unseen. Don't chase them. Chase the pain they awakened. And that's when the real journey begins. The journey inward. The journey downward. Into the forgotten basement of your psyche, where the child you once were still waits to be noticed. Carl Jung didn't romanticize healing. He didn't say it would be beautiful. He said it would be necessary. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. That means you don't heal by pretending to be positive. You don't grow by avoiding pain. You become whole when you turn around, look your shadow in the eyes and say, I see you. I'm not afraid of you anymore. Because love won't fix what your own awareness refuses to face, and no amount of affection from someone else can replace the power of you finally seeing yourself. Your sadness? It's not a weakness, it's a signal. Your triggers? They're not flaws, they're invitations. Your shadow? It's not trying to ruin your life, it's trying to give you back your life by dragging you away from fantasy and into truth. The truth that healing doesn't happen in the arms of another. It happens when you stop abandoning yourself in the name of being loved. So the next time your heart breaks, don't just ask, why did they hurt me? Ask, what pain in me needed to surface? And they were just the mirror. That's not a breakdown. That's an awakening. You don't become whole by being loved. You become whole by being seen, first by yourself. And once that happens, you stop chasing love like it's medicine, because now you've become your own cure. Chapter 7. The script won't change until you do. Here's the hard truth no one wants to say out loud. You're not stuck because of them. You're stuck because of the script you're still living out. The names change, the faces change, the conversations, the excuses, the ending, all slightly different. But the story, the pain, the pattern, still the same. It's like watching a different actor perform the same tragic role, over and over again. You call it bad luck. You call it modern dating. But Carl Jung would call it something else entirely. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you'll call it fate. See, life isn't punishing you. It's trying to get your attention. It's screaming, look at the pattern, rewrite the script, or relive the story, because nothing changes. Until you do, stop blaming them. Start studying you. Ask yourself, what made you stay when they dismissed you? What made you chase someone who never chose you? What made you fall for someone who was never even standing still. That's not love. That's a loop, a trauma echo, a subconscious audition where you keep casting new people to play old roles from your childhood. And here's what stings. They're not even the villain. They're just mirrors, projectors of the inner script you refuse to rewrite. So you keep attracting the unavailable until you realize you've been emotionally unavailable to yourself. You keep chasing validation until you realize your self-worth is still tied to being picked, saved, or chosen. But here's the magic. Self-awareness is the end of emotional repetition. The day you pause, the day you reflect instead of react, the day you ask, what is this relationship trying to teach me about myself, is the day you take back the pen. And with that pen, you stop rereading the old chapter. You start rewriting the whole book. This isn't about becoming cold. It's about becoming conscious. It's not about building walls. It's about building clarity. Because healing doesn't mean you won't get triggered. It means you won't hand your future to the same story that shattered your past. You want new love. Write a new script. You want peace. Stop rehearsing chaos. You want someone to love the real you. Be brave enough to meet them as the healed you, not the hurting version who keeps reliving what was never your fault, but is now your responsibility. This is where the loop ends. Not because the world changed, but because you did. Chapter 8. Healing changes what you find attractive. Healing isn't always loud. It doesn't always come with fireworks, closure letters, or applause. Sometimes healing happens in silence, in those quiet moments when you realize, I'm not attracted to this anymore. Not because you stopped feeling, but because you finally started seeing. Once you heal, something subtle but life-altering takes place. You start losing interest in the things you once chased, like oxygen, the chaos, the unpredictability, the emotional roller coasters you once confused with chemistry. You stop feeling butterflies when someone plays games. You stop craving the hot and cold dynamic. You stop getting high off the chase because your nervous system is finally learning that peace isn't boring, it's safe. Carl Jung said, "We don't attract what we want, we attract what we are." So when you were anxious, fragmented, desperate to be loved, you found beauty in chaos. You thought, this is passion, when really, it was your wound being reactivated. But healing rewires your taste. It calibrates your intuition. It teaches you that love isn't supposed to feel like survival. You start craving presence over performance, truth over intensity, consistency over thrill. You begin to say no to people who bring butterflies, because now you understand that those butterflies were actually anxiety in disguise, your trauma, mistaking tension for love. And here's the bittersweet part. You may lose your taste for the people you once swore were your type. You may walk away from those who still make your heart race. It calibrates your intuition. It teaches you that love isn't supposed to feel like survival. You start craving presence over performance, truth over intensity, consistency over thrill. You begin to say no to people who bring butterflies, because now you understand that those butterflies were actually anxiety in disguise, your trauma, mistaking tension for love. And here's the bittersweet part. You may lose your taste for the people you once swore were your type. You may walk away from those who still make your heart race, because now you don't want your heart to race. You want it to rest. That's not weakness, that's growth. You'll stop begging to be chosen. You'll stop bending into versions of yourself just to be accepted. You'll stop trying to heal through lovers who were never built to hold your pain. Why? Because healing makes you realize you were never broken. You were just unaware. Unaware of your worth, unaware of your wounds, unaware of how loud your childhood was speaking through your adult choices. But now you hear it, you see it, and you finally say, not this time, not this pattern, not this version of me again. Healing doesn't just give you peace, it changes your appetite. It transforms what your soul is drawn to. You no longer crave what hurts you. You no longer chase what confuses you. You no longer glorify the emotional war zones that used to feel like home, because now, home is within you. And from that place of wholeness, you attract different, you love different, you choose different, not because you had to, but because you finally could. Chapter 9. You don't need love, you need truth. Let's clear the illusion once and for all. You think you need love. You think you need someone to choose you, hold you, fix you. But what you actually need is truth. And truth is not always comforting. Sometimes it burns. Sometimes it strips away every illusion you've built around who you thought you were and what you thought you needed. Here's the truth Jung would whisper to your soul. No one can love you more than you love yourself. No one can see you clearer than you see yourself, and no one can rescue you from the reflection you refuse to face. You've spent years asking, do they love me? Are they thinking of me? Will they come back? Was I enough? But those are not the questions of a healed soul. They're the echoes of an abandoned self, still waiting to be claimed by you. You think love is the medicine, but without self-recognition, love becomes a drug, addictive, temporary, and always requiring a hit from someone else's validation. But when you begin the real work, the shadow work, the self-inquiry, the sitting with your own wounds until they no longer scare you work, you stop chasing lovers, you stop craving attention, you stop mistaking connection for salvation, because you finally realize they can't give you what you refuse to give yourself. Not the validation, not the presence, not the peace. You stop asking, do they love me? And start asking the only question that actually matters. Do I love who I become in their presence? Because if love makes you shrink, it's not love. If love makes you question your worth, it's not love. If love makes you betray your own truth, it's not love. It's a mirror, a test, an invitation to see what you still believe you need, when the only thing you ever truly needed was yourself. Not the masked version, not the performing version, but the raw, real, messy, untamed version of you that no longer begs to be chosen, because they already are. Carl Jung didn't say love is a feeling. He said it's a confrontation with your unconscious, your trauma, your story. So when someone comes into your life and shakes you to your core, don't fall for the fantasy. Fall into the truth. The truth that if you can't sit in silence and love yourself in your own presence, no external I love you will ever be loud enough to fill the void. This isn't the end of romance. It's the beginning of self-devotion, because from that place you don't attract love from lack, you attract it from overflow. And that kind of love, it doesn't break you, it reveals you. Chapter 10. Conscious love isn't found, it's built. They told you love is something you find, like it's hiding somewhere, in a person, a place, a swipe, a glance. As if the right person will magically appear and complete your half-written story. But that's a myth. Conscious love isn't found, it's built, not on fantasy, not on craving, not on the need to be rescued from your loneliness, but on awareness, on truth, on the courage to meet someone not from your wounds, but from your wholeness. Real love doesn't start with I need you, it begins with I choose you because I already chose myself. That's the difference. Unconscious love says, fill my void, fix my pain, prove I'm enough. Conscious love says, let's rise together, let's expand, let's face our shadows, not to hurt each other but to heal beside each other. Carl Jung taught us that until we make the unconscious conscious, it will direct our life, and we'll call it fate. So until you bring awareness to your relationship patterns, until you stop looking for love as a bandage, you'll keep attracting the familiar pain dressed in new faces. But once you pause, once you turn inward and become the one who heals you, something profound shifts. You stop needing love and start embodying it. That's when the real magic begins. You won't crave people who leave. You won't fall for those who trigger your abandonment. You won't chase emotional crumbs and call it connection. Instead, you'll recognize a new frequency. Two people, whole on their own, aware of their own shadows, not perfect, but willing to communicate, willing to self-reflect, willing to evolve even when it's uncomfortable. That's love, that's real, that's rare. Because it's not about finding your other half, it's about meeting another whole and choosing to walk together. And that kind of love, it doesn't feel like addiction, it feels like alignment, it doesn't feel like a storm, it feels like clarity. It doesn't ask, will you complete me? It asks, will you grow with me? But you won't experience that, not until you stop searching for someone to save you and become the one who saves yourself. Because the moment you become your own healer, your own lover, your own protector, is the moment the universe sends someone who doesn't come to complete you, they come to celebrate you. That's not a fairy tale. That's conscious reality. And you are ready for it now. Chapter 11. You attract who you are, not who you want. You say you want someone loyal, someone conscious, someone emotionally available. But here's the truth. No one wants to admit. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. So if you're still abandoning yourself, you'll attract those who abandon you. If you're still doubting your worth, you'll meet those who mirror that doubt. If you're still seeking validation externally, you'll be drawn to people who withhold it, just enough to keep you chasing. Carl Jung said, "The world will ask you who you are, and if you don't know, it will tell you." Your relationships are not random. They are reflections, mirrors of your internal state. And here's the catch. The universe doesn't respond to your words. It responds to your energy. So you can affirm, "I am enough," all day long. But if deep down your actions say, "I'm not worthy," that's what you'll manifest. You'll find yourself in half-loves, situationships, endless almosts, because the outer world cannot outpace your inner world. You'll attract your mirror, not your fantasy. So if you want someone emotionally mature, ask yourself, have I faced my own emotional immaturity? If you want someone to choose you, ask, do I choose myself when it's hard? If you want depth, safety, honesty, are you offering that to yourself first? You can't fake frequency. You can't beg the universe into giving you someone that your soul isn't aligned with yet, because until you evolve internally, you'll keep repeating history externally. Different faces, same lessons, same ache. But here's the magic. You don't have to wait for them to change. You just have to become. Become the version of you that no longer needs to chase. Become the version of you that no longer tolerates confusion. Become the version that finally says, "I am no longer available for anything that insults my soul." When you do that, the shift is undeniable, because the energy you carry becomes your filter, your boundary, your protector. And the ones who aren't aligned, they fall away, naturally. You don't need to force it. You don't need to chase it. You just need to embody it. Become the love you've been searching for. Become the presence you've always needed. Because once you do, you stop settling for potential. You stop being addicted to almost. You stop mistaking emotional hunger for romantic destiny. This isn't about perfection. It's about alignment. And alignment only comes when you become truthful with yourself. Not the version that performs, but the version that's finally free. Chapter 12. When you heal, you outgrow the people you once loved. Let's talk about something no one prepares you for. Healing doesn't just change you. It changes your relationships. Your energy evolves. Your boundaries rise. And suddenly, the people you once cried for feel heavy, misaligned, like echoes from a version of you that no longer exists. Carl Jung said, "Enlightenment is not imagining figures of light, but making the darkness conscious." And when you make that darkness conscious, you start to see the love you once begged for was built on survival, on fear, on old wounds pretending to be passion. So don't be shocked if they don't feel like home anymore, because maybe that home was a trauma bond. Maybe that chaos wasn't chemistry, it was childhood screaming for attention. And now that you've healed, you're not interested in fixing people. You're not addicted to potential. You no longer want to convince someone to love you. You want peace. You want presence. You want emotional maturity, not emotional manipulation. And yes, that means you'll lose some people. Not because you're bitter, but because you're finally whole. Healing will cost you comfort. It'll cost you history. It might even cost you the people who once felt like everything. But that's not loss. That's alignment. Because the real you, the one beneath the pain, the people-pleasing, the pretending, isn't here to beg for love. You're here to become it, to radiate it, to recognize that when something requires you to abandon yourself to keep it, it's not love, it's survival. And you didn't come this far just to stay the same. You're not healing to return to what broke you. You're healing to rise beyond it. And yes, it hurts. Outgrowing people who were once your world, it feels like death. Because it is. the death of an identity, the death of the wounded version of you that thought pain was proof of connection. But after that grief comes rebirth, comes clarity, comes a new kind of love, the kind that doesn't ask you to shrink, silence, or suffer, the kind that honors your growth instead of fear.